Hello and welcome to Terraria. My name's Todd, also known as Mage Mech, and this is of course Terraria. Last time we delved down into the depths, went down our elevator, took a look to try and find some more stuff. We did find a heart crystal, but only one. Did find some other stuff, minor stuff anyway, but it wasn't super critical to progression, so kind of glazed over it. We did get a Hellforge, but I don't really plan on getting any major advancements in Hellstone, at least not yet. This episode is going to be pretty much entirely dedicated to building the base more, filling in this entire little area where it's just a big old hole, and then building across this into the snowy biome. So we're just going to get started. I'm going to have to find things to talk about. There has to be something good I can talk about. Oh, I guess I can talk a little bit about our focus progression. So, I did make notes in the past that we are going to focus on magic, and we're also going to branch off into melee, because I did see that melee is very good in Calamity, in the late parts of Calamity. So I'm going to do a lot of stuff into both of them. I am also going to get summons, just because they pretty much boost your damage if you don't have somebody trying to get, you know, as long as you're not competing with other players for gear. It's good to just have one with you at all times, pretty much. And even later in the game, you know, as long as you're not taken away from whatever player is focused on summoning, it's good to have a summon around. It'll speed up killing, regardless of kind of what type of summon it is. Even if it's only doing a couple damage, that little bit of extra damage in the end game of Terraria does actually make a good amount of difference. So it's definitely worth it to take your time, build a summon, get out there. No reason everybody in the party really shouldn't have one. Unless you really think it just clutters up your screen and doesn't really provide any benefit, but I can pretty much guarantee you that it provides a good amount of benefit. Let's see. Oh, I did talk a little bit about my history with the mage class in Terraria, and I really do enjoy playing it. But I'm not entirely annoyed to go to something else with the branching off into melee, just because I played Terraria for quite a good amount of hours. I think my Steam says I played it for like a couple hundred hours. And when you've played something for that long, and I pretty much solely dedicated myself to magic, it does kind of get boring after a certain amount of time. You can only do something for so long before you just get absolutely fed up with it. Which is saying something from me. I used to be well, I shouldn't say used to. I am a very much so an avid MMORPG player. I play World of Warcraft currently, and I've played many other MMOs in the past to try and replace World of Warcraft, but none of them have ever really succeeded in my eyes. At least not on the level that World of Warcraft kind of provides. Not to say that other MMOs haven't succeeded at all, I just don't think that any of them has really come close enough to competing with World of Warcraft in the current market. But boy, does that really kill some people. Things have been touted as the World of Warcraft killer for how many years now, and they just haven't been able to do it. It's not like World of Warcraft is even that, like, truly groundbreaking. It just takes a lot of ideas and puts them all together, but it just really at this point has such a cult following that it's so hard to get rid of something so polished. They've had so many years to build on the ground that they've kind of created in the past, and it's so polished at this point that it's very, very hard to really say that anything will reach that level of depth. The entire world just feels alive when you go into it, from all the players playing to the sheer amount of NPCs and things to do. Things to keep you entertained. Really just covers it all. But I definitely don't blame people for thinking that World of Warcraft is a terrible game in its own right. Just because it's one of those games that very much so relies on grindiness, but if you're playing an MMO and you're thinking it's not going to be grindy, I have some bad news for you. Let's see. How did I get talking about MMOs? Oh, that's right. I was talking about the fact that I have a very big resistance to the grinds. A lot of things I just can't take sometimes because they're super mind-numbing. Like, I'm not a big fan of the grind in MMO, or not in MMOs, but in JRPGs, just because I can't find a way to make it entertaining. I've tried a lot of JRPGs that have some grindy elements, and every single one of them I pretty much had to give up on at a certain point, just because a lot of the grinding in JRPGs is very, very monotonous. Not to say that the grinding in WoW, for instance, isn't the same level of monotonous, but there's definitely other things you can do aside from grind in World of Warcraft, whereas in a lot of JRPGs, and I don't know if I'm going to piss off the JRPG crowd by saying this, but I think that in a lot of JRPGs, sometimes the grind is just absolutely necessary. Which, to progress, I don't think is necessarily the greatest philosophy. Again, World of Warcraft's not perfect, it has a lot of a grind as well. But a lot of the time, if you don't want to do the grind at that particular moment, there are other things you can be doing. One example of this, for instance, is just in the recent expansion for World of Warcraft. If you didn't want to do the grind for raiding and instances, which are kind of like, how do I put it? They're like group activities for people, but specifically it's group activities for fighting enemies, similar to Terraria, for instance. If we were to fight, say, a Terraria boss with a group of people, that would be like either a dungeon or instance or a raid. So it's very similar to that sort of experience. And say, for instance, you didn't want to do that. Well, in World of Warcraft, it gives you the option to, well, if you don't want to do that, but you still want to progress your character and still want to move forward in the game, you can just go do something like player versus player, which is self-explanatory. Everybody should understand what player versus player is. It's just taking your character that, instead of fighting against the environments or NPCs, you're fighting against players. Again, should be self-explanatory. But you can do that and you'll still get good gear for both events. So that's kind of a nice change. Now, in the recent expansion, they've allowed you to do this, and I think in some of the previous ones as well, some of the gear was effective in both modes. But this one, they've kind of really standardized both sets of gear, and I really like that idea. It's really nice. I don't know if they're going to keep it. The next expansion's coming up, because World of Warcraft is one of those games that just changes everything all the time. I hope they do, because like I said, I really enjoy it. It's a good change. It really breaks up the monotony. But if they don't, I'm not going to say that they didn't have a good reason for it. I just think that they made the wrong choice overall. And that sort of change in being able to grind really comes back to the JRPG thing, where, at least from some of the JRPGs I played, when you get to a stage where you really do need to grind, it tends to be in just a specific area that you just have to do it. And you just have to do it in that area, and there's no real other place you can do it. And to me, that's really not a good way to make a grind enjoyable. Overall, that just seems really, really boring. Because all you're doing is you're doing one thing just so you can progress to see the rest of the game. And I just don't find that entertaining. I think one of the greatest examples of JRPG grind versus World of Warcraft grind, or a lot of modern RPG grinds, or Western, I should say, Western RPG grinds, is something like Elder Scrolls grinding versus Maple Story, or something similar to that. Not exactly. It's definitely, that's not an exact comparison, but I've just seen a lot of grinds very similar to Maple Story, and it's just the one that came to mind at the moment. I know it's also an MMO, but in a way it is also, I think it's a Korean, actually. Yeah, I'm not positive whether or not it's Korean or Japanese, but I kind of lump those categories together. Forgive me if that's incorrect, but that's just the way I've seen a lot of other people do that. And if that doesn't exactly fall into the JRPG, because I do know JRPG stands for Japanese RPG. If that's, again, not correct, you'll have to forgive me. I've just seen a lot of other people lump them together as kind of similar, just because of the way that both styles kind of fall together. Korean styles and Japanese styles tend to be very, I don't want to say samey, but they're very, very similar. My big thing is just the difference in grind of extreme monotony versus varied, activities. I would always prefer those varied activities, and I suppose that just kind of falls in because I'm just one of those ignorant Westerners, Gotta have difference in my magical fantasy RPG. Can't be doing the same thing all day. I gotta be special, you see. I gotta have variance. Now, that topic didn't really go anywhere like I was thinking. I was gonna have some more to talk about it, but I guess that's pretty much summed it all up. I've mostly cleared out this tract of land here. If you think I made any poor comments, by the way, about the way JRPGs are handled and the grindiness of them, feel free to, leave a comment, tell me I'm wrong. I'm definitely not gonna, close off that discussion, because I'd love to hear about some MMOs that aren't so grindy, especially ones from Eastern cultures, and whether it be Korean, Japanese, Chinese, doesn't really matter to me. I love the styles of those RPGs. I love the over-the-topness and the art directions and the music directions, but I really don't like grinds. I really don't. So if there are any ones that will just absolutely prove me wrong in that regard, feel free to leave a comment, recommend them. Who knows, maybe they'll show up in videos in my channel. I definitely wouldn't mind that in the slightest. Oh, we've got a goblin army approaching. Never east, waffles. Okay, so we're going from the left to the screen. I should know that by hand, but I just don't. If you heard me spouting off the good old-fashioned northeast, southwest acronym. For me, it always changes depending on what I feel like it should be, but let's head back home. We'll barricade our doors. We'll worry about cleaning up this area later. We've pretty much gotten it all flattened out, really. We'll need probably a little bit more snow to get across, but we've definitely got enough flat lands to put on another house, maybe put up our main base, even. In the meantime, though, I'm going to barricade some doors. I'm going to barricade this door. Easiest way to barricade a door is just put a block behind it. And I'm also going to... I need to barricade that door down there, so I need to kill these guys before they get in. I also need to not die to the goblins. That would be great. Let's pull out the space laser. I thought, yeah, space laser does have infinite penetration. So we can just destroy these guys. And we will also block up the door. Did I already lose an NPC? I might have already lost an NPC. I'm not positive, but I might have already lost one. I was hoping barricading just the... Oh dear. Oh, the wizard might kill me. Ugh. Nearly got killed by that. I think just barricading those inside doors is enough. Let's just move over here so we're not so close. At least not so close to the house anyway, so we're not getting bad guys coming towards it. Ooh, plasma rod. Not super great, but it does set them on fire. What is that? Shooting a tile will cause several bolts, which increase damage to fire. Several debuffs, huh? Ooh. That's kind of an interesting thing. Oh, I died. Huh. Oh, forgive me for a bit of static there. My headphone kind of got stuck on something and it started slipping off. Let us not try to die to this again. I would like to pick up all my gold. Or at the very least the gold from this. Let's get my summons back out. We will wreck this invasion. Ow. Ow. Okay. I don't know if I got all the gold that I lost just a second ago back, but regardless, we're still doing okay. Let's see. Lots of different things that we got from this. We got the plasma rod, which is kind of cool, but I don't know how useful it'll actually be. Debuffs might be good to just throw onto an enemy and then worry about later. If these arrows penetrated, they'd be much, much better. Even just like 1 or 2 targets, that would be monumentous. Looks really cool though. Ooh, we got our hands on a warblade and a harpoon. Harpoon's range damage, but it's a lot of range damage. Let's try out this warblade. If we can get close enough. That does a good amount of damage. Still think our laser's the best though. Just does a lot of damage, penetrates real good. Ooh. It's not always the look or sound that makes an impressive weapon. Sometimes it's just the sheer power. I wasn't expecting to confront a goblin army while trying to expand on my house here, just randomly, but hey, sometimes things don't always go as you expect them to go. Did they just straight up? Yeah, they just straight up destroyed the door. How rude. I know that there are some other drops you can get from the goblin summoners, but I don't know when you're able to get them. So we're probably not going to get them. Making that comment, that is. You never know. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. Assuming that we won't, though. Probably the smart course of action. Just taking a random guess. Man. Lots and lots of goblins. Okay. So we have defeated them. So we've got just an absolute ton of yew wood. Now I think the yew wood actually might look quite nice. We might start making our houses out of yew wood if we have enough of it, depending on how actually good it looks. Ooh, that does kind of look cool. I kind of like the look of the yew wood. So we just might use that. It does look really nice, and I do like the darkness, or the deeper color behind the yew wood. What else can we make with you wood, though? Can make a flintlock. Not super great. Can make a ranged set. Not super useful for us because we're not really focusing on ranged. Can make a lute. Again, not super useful. Can make a shield. While standing still, defense is increased by 4. Not super bad. Can make Shadow Flame Wand. Ooh. Might have to take a look at that, see if it's any good. Overall, nothing amazing. Nothing horrible, but nothing amazing either. What can we make of spiky balls? Nothing, just spiky ball traps. Spiky bombs? Yeah, nothing there. Harpoon, what can we turn that into? A dual poon? Much later. Triploon. That's kind of funny. Calamity has a lot of just really silly mods that don't really go or silly weapons that don't really go anywhere, but being just really silly, and that's kind of one of them. Alright, well, we'll clean up the area over there a little bit more next time, and then probably take a trip down the other elevator to take a look at some new caverns, maybe find some actually good stuff, hopefully. But we've run out of time this time. I will clear up these blocks real quick though, just so our dudes have some actual doors again, and they can sort of leave. Later on we'll build some better defenses, so we won't have to brick these up manually when a goblin army or something else arrives that can break down doors. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.